Imagine sending $10,000 to a supplier in another country. The money doesn't fly across oceans by itself. It doesn't go straight from your bank to theirs.
It doesn't go straight from your bank to theirs. The money travels a winding path through the system. This ensures secure and reliable transactions. Instead, it travels through an invisible network, a network controlled by a shockingly small number of very powerful banks. These aren't the banks you see advertised on television.
These are the quiet giants that sit at the very center of the world's financial web. And today, they don't just move money. They create most of it.
They price its risk, and they decide how easily it flows. This is how a few banks quietly control the world's money. In an era of record global debt, geopolitical tension, and talk of de-dollarization, understanding who really controls the flow of money has never been more important. While politicians argue and central banks raise or lower interest rates, the actual plumbing of the global economy is run by a handful of private institutions. Let's pull back the curtain. Most people believe that money is created when governments print it or when central banks like the Federal Reserve inject liquidity. That's only part of the story. The vast majority of money in the world today is created by private commercial banks. Here's how it works in simple terms. When you take out a mortgage or a business takes out a loan, the bank doesn't take money from someone else's account and give it to you. The bank creates new money out of thin air by crediting your account with a deposit. You now have new spending power. The bank has a new asset, your promise to repay with interest. The bank creates new money. Out of thin air? Yes, literally out of thin air. By crediting your account with a deposit.
What's this contract for?
It gives you new spending power. In return, the bank gets an asset. Your promise to repay with interest.
Oh, I see now.
This is how roughly 95% of the money we use every day comes into existence. It's not physical cash, it's digital bank credit. And this system works until it doesn't. Now here's where it gets interesting. While thousands of banks exist around the world, the real power is extremely concentrated. We're talking hundreds of trillions of dollars in notional value. JPMorgan Chase, Citigroup, Bank of America, and Goldman Sachs sit at the top of this pyramid. These same institutions also dominate the critical infrastructure for moving dollars around the planet. We control the vaults and the global networks. Dollars move through us. When a bank in Brazil, Indonesia, or Germany wants to send or receive US dollars, the transaction often has to clear through one of a small group of major correspondent banks, with JPMorgan and Citi being the heaviest hitters. They are the gatekeepers of the dollar system. So what does this mean? It means these banks aren't just big players. They are the system. When one of them gets into trouble, as we saw in 2008, the entire global financial machine seizes up. This is why certain banks were deemed too big to fail. But being too big to fail also means they are, in many ways, too powerful to fully regulate. They influence policy. They shape the rules of the game. And because they control both the creation of money and the critical pipes it flows through, their decisions ripple across the entire world economy. This concentration creates two major risks. If something goes wrong at one of these central nodes, the shock spreads faster and harder than most people realize. It concentrates enormous economic and even political power in very few hands. While we debate central bank independence or government spending, these private institutions quietly sit at the center of modern capitalism. The question isn't whether this system works. For decades, it has moved trillions efficiently. In a world that's becoming more multipolar, more digital, and more volatile, how long can a system this concentrated remain stable? And what happens when the next crisis tests these few banks again?
The pipes of the global economy are strong, but they all run through remarkably few hands. What do you think happens next?